Hi, good day. Welcome to CMS. Now we'll continue talking about the quantity surveying work in CMS, and we'll start in step 1.4, which is the finishing work. Actually, the finishing work in CMS has a huge part of calculation. Normally, in all the construction building, the finishing work have the most quantity and the most value of the project. That's why we have more work here in the finishing work, but you will enjoy using CMS in the finishing work quantity surveying, as we will see now. When you open the finishing work page, you will find CMS divide all the finishing work for internal finishing, which is the civil work finishing inside the building, external finishing, which is the civil finishing work outside the building, partitions work, waterproofing work, handrails, cabinets work like wardrobe or kitchen cabinets, and landscape. And we'll talk now about one by one. Let's start with the internal finishing. That's the page of QS of internal finishing. What we have in internal finishing? We have walls, floorings, skirting and border, and ceiling. 4 locations of finishing: the walls finishing, flooring finishing, skirting or borders finishing, and the ceiling finishing. Let's look about one by one. In the walls, we have the background of the wall, which is the plastering. Either it is a normal plaster or shoot plaster, which using the machine, or special type of plaster like a chemical plaster or barium plaster, which are using in the special location, especially in the hospitals or all the medical or in the medical location or the special industrial location. So we have these types of the background. We have also for the walls tile. You can also cover the walls with tiles. In the tiles, you will add here all the types of the tiles, either ceramic or porcelain or whatever, plus marble tile. You will add here also all the marble types required for the project's walls. Also for the walls, we have the fine finishing, which is the paints. You will insert here also all the type of the paints required in your project. That's the first steps to insert all the types of the finishing according to your project specification. We talk about the walls. The floorings are the same. The floorings here will add it direct all the floor tiles, the floor marbles, and also the flooring with the fine finishings. What the meaning of fine finishing? Like epoxy coating, carpets, rubber, wood, any kind of finishings not required rough civil work. The same for the skirting. Also we'll add here all the tiles and the marbles and the fine finishing, either paints or epoxy or rubber or whatever. Finally, the ceiling. Ceiling also must have a background. This background, either it is a plaster or shoot plaster with the machine as the same, or can be direct base course paint only on the slab bottom. So first we'll add the background, then we'll go for the false ceiling. All these types of false ceiling, you will insert all the types of the false ceiling related according to your project specification. Then you will insert all the paints required in the project specification. There is a note here. Last type of paint, it is an anti-fungus. This must be anti-fungus, don't change. Also for the floors, we have here a fair face at the last point. Also don't change. Anything else you can change and insert according to your project specification. So first step now is to insert the finishing type for walls, floors, skirting and ceiling. Let's go for second step. Whatever you will insert here, we will choose it later. Step 2, choose the finishing type for each space. We'll find here 45 types of finishing. Each one have almost 36 location of finishing, and you can jump in each type by this way from this buttons for your easy movement. So let's explain what's the type and what you will insert here. What you have here in this screen. Let's start first with this legend, which you have to insert all the type of finishing here. So here we have to insert the type of finishing. If you go for your plan, you will find each room have type of finishing. If we talk about the living room, we will find this finishing type is T1. What the meaning of T1? You will check in your schedule. What is T1? That's T1, which is related to the typical floor. T1 for the sitting and the bedrooms. T1 have F1, W1, C1, S1. What the meaning of this? That means finishing type or location of T1, which is sitting room and bedrooms, have floor F2, wall W1, ceiling C4, and S2. What the meaning of these codes? We'll check in the finishing schedule, which is here. You can easily find all the code types. So if we are talking about F2, that means a ceramic tile. By the way, that's all the type of the floor finishing in the project. That means you have to enter all these in the floor finishing as we mentioned before. And here we have to choose from which we inserted before. So if we're talking about the bedrooms and the sitting, we will insert all the finishing type for this location. So here you can insert the location for your easy reference. Here you will insert all the finishing of the wall. What's the background of the wall? What's the paint of the wall? What is the type of the flooring, which is F1. F1 is the in case of rough finishing, F2 in case of fine finishing, and surface in case a surface. Here is the skirting. I have to choose the skirting. Here is the ceiling. The first ceiling is the background of the ceiling. Ceiling 2 is the false ceiling, and ceiling paint is the paint of the ceiling, and inside the false ceiling, which is the anti-fungus. That's why we informed before, don't change the anti-fungus from the table. So how we'll choose this now? According to our drawing, you have to insert what the type of the ceramic. So we have here for the flooring, we are talking about the flooring, which is F2 in this location. We have to choose the ceramic tiles. That's what we have. Let's choose ceramic tiles like this. We don't have another flooring. This area not have fine flooring, which we have here, like a rubber, like wooden, like carpets. We don't have. Also, this area not surface. But if it's a surface, we just choose surface or not. If it's considered as a surface, all this area will be considered as a surface concrete, but it is not happen. What the type of the walls? Let's check again the drawings. It is W1. So let's see what about W1. It is an emulsion paint, 3-coat. So it is an emulsion paint. So it is here. We already choose an emulsion paint from this table. But of course, the emulsion paint must have a background of a plaster. You cannot choose either it will be a normal plaster or a shoot plaster. You can choose according to your specification. If it's not clear in the specification, you can choose the normal plaster, and later you can decide when you start work in the cost estimation to find which is better for you from cost wise and productivity wise, as we'll see. The same we'll do in the skirting. We'll find in the drawing what about the skirting, what the type of the skirting mentioned there. It is a ceramic as the S2. Also about the ceiling, C4. We'll just choose C4, which is emulsion paint. So emulsion paint, that means it is also have a background, but it is not a false ceiling. That means we'll go for the emulsion paint, but it does not have a false ceiling, but it must have a background. This background, either it is a plaster or shoot plaster or base course. This also according to your specification in the project, you will choose what kind of background of the paint for the ceiling. Now you identify and choose all the type of the finishing for these areas. What's balance now? The balance now is to insert the areas itself. How to insert the area which have the same type of finishing. That's the mandatory condition. All the areas you will insert here must have 100% typicality in the finishing type. According to the drawing, all the areas or all spaces have T1 finishing can be inserted in this table. We'll take an example. How to insert the dimension of the finishing in CMS. You have to choose either to insert the normal space dimension, length and width, like a normal room. That's in case if the room is an order dimension, have a length and width, like this, length and width. It can be easily inserted by length and width. By this way, take the length 370 by 360. So let's insert it here. We'll tell about bedroom 1. You can also enter the floor if it's a special floor or it is not a repeated, or you can insert the location according to your drawing for your reference. Keep the repetition now as 1. We can insert now the length and width, which is 3.7 and 3.6. What we'll see now here new 2 numbers came. First number is the area, second number is the parameter. Now let's modify the height. We find here a reference for the height which is calculated by CMS before according to the heights of the slab as we inserted before in the columns. You cannot change and modify according to your actual wall. Just CMS is considered that will be the same because the CMS considered the height and the levels which we inserted before in the columns sheets. As we mentioned here, the height is an internal finishing height. This height value is a guidance and able to be modified according to your project. That's H1. What about H2? H2 is the false ceiling height in case if your room or your space have a false ceiling. In our case we don't have, so the both must have the same height. What else we have in this room? We have the opening. We have a door and window. We have door called WD2 and window called W2. So we'll go here and search for WD2, which is this, and aluminium window, which is W2. We just insert now the code of the opening. If you have another extra opening not mentioned in the codes, you can add it here direct. And this opening must be above 1 meter because according to the QS standards, which is BOMI telling that areas below 1 meter is not considered as a cutting from the spaces. So what we inserted here now for the ordered room which have a clear width and length and width, we insert the location. If there is no repetition, we'll keep it as 1. We'll insert the length and width, the height, or to confirm the height, and we'll insert the opening inside this room. CMS will calculate clearly the required wall finishing, background either plaster or whatever, and fine finishing, which is the paint. CMS will calculate the flooring area, the skirting quantity, and the ceiling finishing, including the background and the fine finishing, which is the paint type. This room is repeated how many times? Here 3. So we have 3 have the same dimensions. You can also, of course, we can check. These 3 are repeated for 15 times, which is the typical numbers of the floors of our building. That means this room or this space repeated for 45 times. As you saw, the quantities of all the quantities are changing according to the new quantities type. In case the rooms or the space have an L shape, so we add these 2 columns to just insert the cutting location, which is related to the L shape, like this L shape for the living. So we can consider here the living, say it is living 1. We'll insert the main length and width, which is this and this, 860 by 380, and the other dimension, which it will be cut from this space, which is 360 by 255. That means now we have 4 dimensions required to be added: 860 by 380, and the cutting 360 times and 255. According to this, CMS calculated the area and cut this space from this full space. What else we have? We have these 3 doors, WD1, WD2, WD3, according to the door schedules, and this balcony door, which is GD4. So we have to identify all these spaces or all this opening inside CMS, which is related to this living room. So we have to insert here WD1 and WD2 and WD3 as a timber opening. As we informed, they are the doors inside this space, and GD4, which is a sliding door for the balcony. CMS now is cutting all these areas from the walls and the skirting. Also, we can check this space is repeated how many times. We can find here 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we'll consider this 4 times for each floor. We have a 15 floor, so this space is repeated for 60 times. You can see the changing which is happening here in this quantities and reflected here in the total quantities. Whatever you will add for each type of finishing, it will be divided and calculated for the ceiling and the skirting and the flooring, and you will find all the quantity for each type of the finishing will be changed according to your addition in the project. Now we already talked about in case if the room is ordered length and width, and in case of the room or the space have L-shaped room. The balance now in case of the space have an unordered dimension, like this room which not have an ordered dimension. So by very easy way we will draw a polyline like this, order of PL, and we'll start to draw the polyline around all the internal wall like this way. Then click for this polyline and write list. He'll give you the area and the length. The area inside this polyline, which is the area of the room, and the length of this polyline, which is the perimeter of the room. These 2 numbers will be inserted direct in the area and the perimeter, like this. If CMS asks you for a password, you will just write CMS in uppercase or capital letter. Then you will enter also the type of the opening and the repetition according to the drawing. The method of the polyline, it can be used also in the ordered dimension or in L-shape space, and of course in case of unordered dimension. So the method of the polyline and inserting direct the area and the parameter is the common way or the comprehensive way to get the area and the parameter for every space. The same we will do for each type of finishing. You have here all these types. Any kind of finishing in your project, any kind of space finishing in your project, you can add it here separately in each table like this. So each screen like this, or each two tables like this, one for identifying all the specified finishing, and the other to identifying or to inserting all the dimension and the locations for each sharing the same finishing types. If you go for another type of finishing like the bathroom, you will choose the wall tiles. If this wall tile will fix on plaster, you have to add here a plaster. Okay, and you'll choose the flooring and the skirting if there is a border there for this tiles. Of course, in case of the wall tiling, there is no skirting, but can be a border, but you will consider as a skirting. And also in case in the ceiling, it will be, if it's as a false ceiling, you will insert the false ceiling type. Maybe there is a plaster or not, maybe there is a paint or not, you will add if it's there. And if there is an anti-fungus inside the ceiling, you will add it, and you will insert the location and the repetition and the spaces as same as the way we added for all the rooms. The same you will do for each type of finishing through all the project. At the end you will find CMS calculated for you all the type of finishing inside your project, either it is wall or flooring or skirting or ceiling, with all the types. That was the way how to CMS will calculate for you the finishing, the civil work finishing for your project. See you in the next video, and thank you very much.